Alright, this is the second video in the How to Keep a Conversation Going series, and this video will be on baiting. And once again, you're going to learn some tools, strategies, and mindsets for attracting beautiful women. And in this video, you can expect a how-to guide for keeping a conversation interesting, what to say and do, and also the attitude and the way you come across as you say or do it. So why is baiting important, and what are we going to be learning throughout this module? Baiting will help you continually lead the conversation forward because you're going to learn a skill that's going to enable you to drop what is referred to as bait into the conversation so that the women can grab a hold of it and she can follow you along with where you want to go. It's also going to help you open doors that allow flirtation and attraction to take place. A lot of the problem that guys run into is during a conversation, they're too much caught in like a back and forth sort of vibe with a woman, and they're stuck on a topic that isn't conducive for flirtation. Well, when you learn how to bait and drop bait in, you can actually guide the conversation in the direction you want it and make it almost seem like the woman is doing it because she's following the bait that you're setting out there. So what is baiting? Baiting is all about getting the girl to either give you information she might be reluctant to do, or to get her to ask you things about yourself or things you want to talk about. Why is baiting important? Like I said, baiting helps keep the conversation going. Now, when you mention things or you say things that get her to open up, now she's not only is she opened up, not only is a lot of the pressure off of you to keep that conversation going, but she's also investing now. She's putting out effort into the conversation, which makes her more likely to continue and to feel good about it. Baiting, not only that, but it allows you to talk about what you want to talk about. So like I said, let's say you're stuck in a back and forth conversation about how much she hates her job, and you drop some bait, which I'm going to explain what it is further in some examples, but let's say you drop the bait about an old job you had where the boss hit on you and whatever. And now, you wanted to take the conversation to a sexual level or an attractive level. And by dropping in just a subtle thing about, oh yeah, that reminds me of my old boss who she started stalking me. And now she's going to say, oh, what happened? What's the story with that? And then you can start talking about attraction and, relationships and all the stuff that makes it easier to sort of flirt and get sexual with her. And you did that by simply dropping a phrase into her boring story or the topic that you don't want to be talking about. And like I said, it gives you an opportunity to get sexual. And I'm going to show you later on in this video how you can actually bait her into bringing up sex as a topic and to get her opening up about her sexual preferences and what she's into. So baiting, another great thing is it allows you to qualify her. You might have heard the idea of qualifying women, and that's like putting yourself as the selector and making her sort of jump through hoops to earn your approval rather than the opposite. Well, when you bait, it gives you a chance to qualify her, which gets her more invested and makes you seem as the selector. Like I said, it gets her opening up more. And finally, it can be used for the close. So, at the end or at some point where you want to go for a kiss, or you want to get her phone number, or you want to get her back to your place, and you're not sure how you can do it, this idea of baiting, and like I said, we're going to be going into examples in a second, that they can actually help you get the kiss or get the invite back to your place or get the phone number just by baiting her, just by getting her to almost suggest it through the sort of hint you're dropping out. So what do you bait? I keep saying this word bait. You can drop hints about yourself. You can get her to share something about herself, and you can also get her to ask you your thoughts on something. So let's take a look at each one of these and show you how to do it. So dropping hints about yourself. This allows you to bring up topics you're passionate about without kind of forcing it. So let's say you really want to talk about your love, your ability to play guitar. Maybe that's something that when you start talking about, you're real passionate about, you get emotional, and it's a great topic to kind of create attraction and rapport. But you don't want to just come out and say, I play guitar, I'm in a band. Baiting allows you to drop that into a conversation in a way that gets her to say, "Oh, well, do you play music?" and then allows you to do it. It allows you to bring up topics that highlight your value. Like I said, maybe it's that you play guitar. Maybe it's that you dated a model. Maybe it's that you make good money. Things that you're proud of. And I'm not saying things you want to brag about, but things that highlight some of your values, things that that you feel a lot of self-esteem about. And a lot of times we don't want to bring these up in conversation, but baiting allows you to bring them up because she's actually the one bringing it up. It's just a way to get her to do it. So it also allows you to drop hints at your softer side. So let's say now you're talking to a woman and you're doing a lot of bantering and flirting, and you've created a lot of attraction, but you haven't really grounded yourself as like an emotional type of guy. You can drop little hints about that side of you, whether it's that you meet your mom for dinner once a week, or that you volunteer at a soup kitchen. These kind of things are things you might want to bait in a conversation. So let's talk about how to do it. So the good, the bad, and the ugly of baiting. Now, I'm going to credit a guy by the name of Swordfish for this because it actually struck home for me, because the example I'm going to use is about boats. And I had recently gotten a boat, and I love talking about it because it's something I wanted for a while. Very proud to finally be able to have. I love going out on it. I love everything about it. But I kind of feel stupid saying, "Hey, I have a boat," to a girl. And I was reading this on a forum recently, and I was like, wow, okay, that makes sense. So let's look at the ugly, the bad, and the good of sort of letting a girl know that you have a boat and start to talk about the boat. The ugly. So last weekend I had a hot tub party on my yacht with 10 topless girls. Aren't I awesome? Little exaggerated, but I've been in situations where guys have basically said stuff like that. A little bit better, but still bad, would be last weekend I went out with some friends in my boat and did this, and this. And what's hit home for me and kind of made me feel a little stupid was I actually left something very similar to that as a Facebook status. And as I read that, I was like, I really did go about that the wrong way. So a good way. Now, this is a way to bait in a way that allows you to drop information and gets her mind going with questions that she now has about you. So let's listen. Last weekend I went out on the lake with my friend M. We had a blast and did blah blah blah. There's nothing like the feel of fresh water splashing against your skin. So what made this so good? Well, it gave her room to wonder and make her pry. And this is what you want to ultimately be doing with baiting. Is you want to drop things in the conversation that make her wonder and then almost force her to ask you more about it. So maybe she wants to know now, does he own a boat or does his friend M? What type of boat? Does he own like a little jet ski or does he own like a big yacht? What's the relationship with M? Is M a guy or a girl? What's his deal? So now she has all these things that she can ask you about and that she wants to know, which makes her want the conversation to continue so that she can find out the answers to these questions. So the other way to bait is to bait her to share something about herself. And this is where it gives you a chance to qualify her. And it also allows you to slyly turn the conversation sexual. And once again, it gets her invested in the interaction. So let's look at an example of baiting to qualify her. You can just say something simple. I bet you got a real wild side. Haha, only when I drink. I don't even want you to tell you about last weekend. How do you know? I could just tell from your mischievous smile, and I deal with a lot of girls for what I do, which can be, let's just say, very interesting. And I could tell you fit in with the very interesting sort I meet. Plus, you don't have that bored out of my mind look most girls sport when they get out of college. So right there, let's look at the different spots you baited. So let's look at a concrete idea of baiting. So in this one paragraph, this one spout of talking to her, you left 3 different things that she can go on. You said, I could tell from your mischievous smile, you know I deal with a lot of girls for what I do. I deal with a lot of girls for what I do. What do you do? Now she wants to know, what do you do? Which can be, let's just say, very interesting. By saying, let's just say, very interesting, now she wants to know, what's so very interesting about the girls he meets? What does he do? What's so interesting? And then you say, you don't have the bored out of my mind look that most girls sport when they get out of college. And now she's like, well, now she wants to know, like, what's that bored out of my mind look? Well, what kind of look do I have? Why don't I have that look? What makes me mischievous? There's so much in that little paragraph that allows her to want to know more, as opposed to just saying, oh yeah, you just have a look. Yeah, what kind of look? But here you give her a lot more, and it's really all about packing everything you say with more things that she can go on. Instead of just answering something in one-word sentences, open up various new threads within the sentence. So let's give another example. What part of town you from? Oh, you're one of those girls. So let's say what part of town you from? And then she answers, oh, I'm from, Clifton. Oh, you're one of those girls. When she asks, what do you mean? Avoid answering and change the subject. So now that's an idea. That's sort of like hooking, where you said you're one of those girls. And now that's giving you a chance now to qualify her. Because now she wants to know. She's going to continue asking. And eventually, when you tell her, you can say, oh, you're one of those girls, and you have something ready to use. So you're just packing everything you say. That's what you want to keep in mind. Everything she says, you have a little bait to throw out there. So if you just say, she says, oh, I'm actually from California. Oh, yeah, now I see. And you just said, now I see. Now I see what? Now you have, by saying now I see, or that makes sense. I get it now. You're just saying something that forces her to be like, what do you get? What do you see? What makes sense now? And that baited her into like asking you more questions and allowing you now to tell her things about herself. So let's talk about baiting her into sexuality. The best way to calibrate and see how she'll respond to sexual talk is to bait her. This means you make comments that can be vaguely construed as sexual. If she takes the bait and responds back in a sexual frame, it's on. But if she ignores the comment, then she probably isn't ready yet. So what are some ways to bait sexually? Well, you can do subtle sexual references, misinterpretations, jokes, and exaggerations. Let's look at some of these. Let's look at an example of a subtle sexual reference as bait. If you're talking about food, dessert, or ice cream, you could say, yeah, I really love whipped cream. Some girls will turn in a sexual comment like by saying, yeah, I really love whipped cream. That's bait, right? Now think of that as bait. Yeah, I really love whipped cream is bait. You just dropped the bait out there. Is she going to take the bait? A lot of girls will, and they'll turn it into a sexual comment by saying, oh yeah, I bet you do, or what do you like about it? In which case, you always turn it around on them. So here's an example. I love whipped cream. Haha, I bet you do. I just meant in my hot chocolate, but apparently you got a dirty mind. So you baited her into bringing up sex. And that's one of the best ways to do it, is that you say something that is subtly sexual and you drop bait and you see if she's going to jump on it. And if she does, and if she says anything back to you about it, now it's you have not only do you have open game to kind of bring it up, but you can act as if she brought it up. You can use a challenge as bait. So you can express doubt that she's got a wild side, or act like she's trying to seduce you but can't. So maybe if she tells you a story about something naively childlike, you can say, "Don't think you can fool me with that puppy dog and ice cream talk. I totally see you as the kind of girl with a stash of whips and chains under her bed." So you just dropped her as bait. You just made like a challenge, a joke, a little bit of an exaggeration, and now you're going to see where she's going to take it. If she takes the bait, she's going to say, "No, I'm totally not. I'm not into that." A lot of girls will say, actually, I do like that. You don't know where she's going to take it, but by dropping the bait, you're putting the ball in her court to kind of amp up the sexual talk. Let's talk about getting her to ask your thoughts on something. And I'm going to credit Sin for this. He actually wrote an article for my magazine, tsbmag.com, and this was an example he used that I thought was good, and he kind of talked about this. And he talks about the idea of using negations. These are used to get girls more invested in the conversation. Saying something like, "I can't even tell you what I just thought," or "I shouldn't even tell you this." Those are open loops, which we sort of talked about in the hooks video. And these are unfinished questions that elicit a response. Here's an example. "I'm totally in the wrong business because I hate to fly." So by saying like, "I'm totally in the wrong business because I hate to fly," you didn't say what you do, but now you're getting her to ask you, well, what does he do for a living that he has to hate, that makes him fly? "You totally remind me of my friend Kelly." You're getting her to ask you about your friend Kelly. So now this is even greater because let's say your friend Kelly is promiscuous. So now you can say, "You totally remind me of my friend Kelly." She'll say, "Oh, who's your friend Kelly?" "Ah, she's this girl. She's actually pretty cool, although she's a little promiscuous." And now she's thinking, "I remind him of a promiscuous girl." And she goes, "So why do I remind you of a promiscuous girl?" "Oh, you just have this wild side. Like I could totally see you with a stash of whips and chains under your bed." And now you're just you're allowing her, you're baiting her into getting you to talk about sex and getting the conversation towards sex. Had you just said, "I bet you have whips and chains under your bed," without going, "You remind me of my friend Kelly, she's a little promiscuous," and then going into it, it would have seemed a little bit of odd. By baiting her, by saying, "You totally remind me of my friend Kelly," and then explaining Kelly a little bit, and then bringing up the whips and chains under the bed, it's a lot smoother, seems a lot more natural. So what to practice? This idea of baiting is something you gotta practice because, watching this video, you can only kind of explain it so much in a video. It's something that you have to get a hang of through actual practice. So I want you to start practicing this immediately and get a feel for what I mean by it. Practice dropping hints about things you want her to ask you about. So I gave the example earlier. Instead of let's say you want to talk about your boat, instead of saying, "I was out on my boat," you can say, "Yeah, I was out on the ocean with my friend," and tell a story that doesn't involve the boat, but during the course of it, in order for her to understand the story, she's going to have to ask you, at which case you can say, "Oh, I have a boat," or "Oh, I play guitar," or "Oh, I'm an air traffic controller," or "I'm a businessman," or "I'm a whatever." Whatever your job is. That I have a friend who's an air marshal. He's one of those guys that after 9/11 he sits on the plane, and when there's somebody that's a terrorist, he's the guy that's like the hidden guy that is supposed to stop any kind of attack on a plane. It's a really cool job and a very pussy-getting job. When girls hear that, they're very impressed that he's that, it's kind of like a Secret Service type of job. And he can't really bring it up in a conversation because it kind of seems weird. So him saying, "Well, with my job, it's kind of weird. I hate flying with my job." Now it allows her to ask about the job, and it allows him to bring it up. And with him, when you have a job like that is kind of like a money job that girls are definitely going to dig and kind of be curious about. You want to bring it up, but you want to bring it up in a way that you're not just saying, hey, guess what I do for a living? So practice dropping hints about things you want to ask her to ask about. Practicing challenging women to get them opening up. This is a really easy thing to practice. I mean, you can practice saying, I bet you got a wild side, or you're totally trouble, or you totally remind me of this kind of girl. And you're just saying it, and she's going to say, why? And then you just smile and say, yeah, you get it. And she's going to open up. That's like the thing you're going to find is that girl, it's going to just get her talking. And she's then going to be giving you things to go on. Also, practice using negations to get her to ask you things. This is where you say, I'm totally in the wrong profession. Don't even ask me about this. You totally remind me of my friend. You're saying things that you just want her to ask you about things. So you say them in like sort of a bad way, or like a way that seems like you don't want to talk about it, but it's actually going to get her to ask you about it. Go through this video again if you don't understand it, because to be honest, baiting was something that when I first heard it, I kind of understood it, but I didn't quite really understand it. So listen to this video again, make some notes as you listen of things you want to go out in the real world and practice, and implement it immediately. It's not something that this isn't like a theory. Some things you want to know in theory, but it doesn't, this is not something you want to know in theory. This is something you want to implement immediately and get a hang of it. Because like I said, it's hard to give you examples without a whole conversation taking place. But I gave you enough here to give you an idea of how to use them in your own conversation. So go out tonight and practice using these.